Wow, what a crowd. So the moon is currently in Scorpio. And usually people like to dig into their caves during the moon in Scorpio. So I want to acknowledge all of you for having the courage to crawl out of your cave and show up here in this public cave. Does anyone here have the moon in Scorpio? Okay. So you might want to say a few words about that later. It's fascinating that Jupiter and Neptune are trining throughout most of this year. Jupiter in Scorpio and Neptune in Pisces, her own sign. So when the moon is in Scorpio, once a month, this year, she's unusually powerful because Jupiter's already in Scorpio, diving into the underworld. And the full moons of Scorpio, Sagittarius, and Capricorn are unusually powerful this year. We just had the full moon in Scorpio last month. The full moon in Sagittarius is approaching. It's basically Monday night. It's early on Tuesday morning. It's exactly full. The full moon in Sagittarius is looking to Jupiter as his guide, as her guide, because Jupiter rules Sagittarius. And Jupiter is where? Jupiter's in Scorpio, the sign behind Sagittarius. So Sagittarius, by nature, is very liberating. If you understand the evolutionary cycle of the signs are not really separate from one another. They're evolutionary phases of consciousness. So Scorpio prepares you for Sagittarius. It's the experience of the transformational power of Scorpio that connects you with your passion and purpose in the underworld, that then opens the door for the expansive nature of Sagittarius as a new kind of awareness and teaching that results from that powerful transformational experience in Scorpio. So Jupiter, being in Scorpio, he's diving deep into the underworld himself. So when the moon's full in Sagittarius, she's looking to Sagittarius, who's back one sign behind his natural rulership in Scorpio, diving into the underworld with power and passion. And then the following full moon, and Jupiter being in Scorpio is looking to who is his guide? Who rules Scorpio? And Pluto, he looks to Pluto as his guide in the underworld. And Pluto's in Capricorn, he looks to Saturn. So we have this signature of the full moon in Sagittarius looking to Jupiter, looking to Pluto, looking to Saturn in his own sign of Capricorn. And then the following full moon in Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, looking to Saturn also. The previous full moon in Scorpio looked to Pluto and then Saturn. So we have these three sequences of full moons who are all looking to Saturn in its own sign in Capricorn as their final guide. So that's why these three full moons have been very extraordinarily powerful. Now the Scorpionic signature of the moon being in Scorpio today, as it was during my last talk, relates to the psychic nature of the astral plane, the astral aspect of our being, and all the energetic influences that impinge upon us from the psychic realm. So the moon in Scorpio here, I would say that you are by nature very psychic and aware of that impinging realm. Is that true? Mm-hmm. And that our thoughts and emotions and experiences here involve more than meets the eye. Those who awaken generally have contact with that higher order of being emanating from the astral planes of the psychic world, and become aware of the nature of that world and also the entities that inhabit that world, who influence us beyond our usual conscious awareness. So do we have anybody who's psychic here? They raise their hands. We all are, we're just not fully conscious of it. So during the Moon and Scorpio phase, we become much more heightened in our emotional response and sensitivities to that other world. And we find ourselves really drawn into what I call shadow dancing. If we're not careful, we find ourselves experiencing the other as a source of shadow. And when we are dancing with our shadow, we then appear to polarize against those who appear to be our enemies. I'm going to take a little time to go into this because this is being emphasized this year as an avenue through which we awaken to the greater mystery of our being and its relationship to these astral forces that play a very powerful and determinant role in our human history. So many times when you awaken, you become aware of higher order beings that have been involved in your destiny beyond your conscious awareness. How many of you here are aware of there being higher order beings who are influencing and guiding your greater destiny? We have a few hands raised here. Okay. So for much of humanity, they are not aware of these higher order influences that are impinging upon their world and opening and closing gateways and doors of opportunity. So they can, when the Moon's in Scorpio or Scorpio's involved, the underworld, the shadow dancing aspect of the psychic realm is present in their lives, can be caught in what's called psychic warfare, or emotional contest with others around them for the purpose of preserving and protecting their own emotional survival. This because Jupiter's in Scorpio is being emphasized as a path to awaken this year. The trine to Neptune is offering this beautiful opportunity to awaken to the angelic order of the higher states of being close to the source itself, who are working with the underworld as an avenue through which to awaken. Venus is now in Cancer, and she will be forming what's called a grand trine to this Jupiter-Neptune trine in early June. She's already in Cancer, so we're all feeling it, which heightens the sensitivity to what I'm speaking about here. So how many of you have noticed that the emotional intensity of your relationship to others who don't appear to be recognizing, supporting, or understanding you has been intensifying? The reason I'm mentioning this battle for the soul of humanity is because it's during those times that there are other forces involved who like to push that energy to a point of conflict so that they draw human beings onto the battlefield, psychic warfare, through which then they can feed on the energy of that contest. There's a point when you can recognize that you're shadow dancing, or someone else that you love or are involved with is shadow dancing. There's a point where you realize that the other person cannot hear you. Do you know what I'm talking about? You're talking and like they can't hear you. That's because they're involved, or you are involved with your own shadow, and you're projecting your shadow onto the other person. And they are talking to an idea of you rather than being able to see or hear what you're actually saying. And that's one giveaway to the possibility that you're involved in a shadow dance. When this occurs in my own life, I just literally just go silent, because I realize that the person I'm speaking to literally can't hear me. And to further because if I continue to push my conversation, then it begins to become more and more hostile and difficult for the energies to resolve. I really made a breakthrough in my own personal life when I became aware of these other forces. They go by many names that tend to try to push us into conflict with one another so that they can feed on that energy. Is anyone aware of what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So by being conscious of that, then I realized that if they can't get to me personally, because I'm pretty connected to my own being, they will attempt to move through someone I'm emotionally connected with. And then if they can move through someone I'm emotionally connected with, they have an avenue through which to draw me onto the battlefield. So once I realized that, I says, no, I cannot allow that any longer in my life. Particularly if you attempt to use a person that I love or am concerned about as an avenue through which to draw me into battle. Mm-hmm. I realize that I will not allow my energy to be stolen or compromised by you any longer. So there's a point where our spiritual discipline, it's an act of power, an act of love, requires us to establish a healthy boundary and cut that psychic link off before it degenerates into a contest, a psychic war. Have any of you noticed this is like a pattern that repeats in your life to the point where you're drawn in and you realize that your energy was stolen by the encounter? And there's a sense that there's something more involved. The person at a later point will say or do things that are harmful, and they'll awaken later at a later point and says, God, I didn't realize what I was saying or doing. I'm sorry. I apologize for losing my discipline. Those of us who are on the path of love have a discipline that naturally evolves as we deepen our commitment to that path. Normally those two words aren't associated with one another. Discipline doesn't sound like love. Usually, dad disciplining us, or it doesn't feel like love. But there's a greater discipline in love that establishes healthy boundaries and is clear about who and what you will and will not participate in. Now, the beauty of this whole period of time through the summer, with if you were here at my last talk, we were talking about Mars squaring Uranus, just having entered Taurus. The power of this transit continues to unfold through all summer because Mars goes retrograde and stays within the orb of squaring Uranus through early September, which is highly unusual. Mars square Uranus is associated with sudden awakening, lightning flashes, that of events that appear out of the blue that suddenly shift our awareness and awaken us to a higher order of being. Mars square Uranus is highly electrical in nature, and its midpoint, the point of resolution where its power is released, is in Pisces, conjunct Neptune. So if this weren't extraordinary enough, Mars squaring Uranus for a 4 or 5 month period, its outcome point where this Mars square Uranus releases its highly energetic charge is conjunct Neptune, the gateway to the heavenly worlds. So I have associated this with almost like a near-death experience that comes out of the blue. Mm-hmm. A shocking event, shock and awe, that opens the portal to the heavenly worlds and angelic presences. Has anyone felt a little more edgy than usual? Like you're just on the edge? It's like this high charge of almost nervous energy that seems to be highly unpredictable and leave you really somewhat off balance. That's also Uranus and Taurus, where you're just ready to jump in any direction. So my suggestion when Mars is squaring Uranus is to watch your breathing. Pranayama is actually an excellent exercise, because when you're getting overly amped by this particular lightning medicine, you may notice that your breathing gets shallow. You're not quite grounded. You're not being present. You can be pushed to get in a hurry, and that charge then can really move you to sudden turns of events that where you're just not grounded enough to maintain your balance. So during periods of high excitement where I notice my breathing is getting shallow, I purposely slow my breathing. Another technique I use is to use my eyes to connect 360 with my environment. So you ever notice when you get in a hurry, your vision just focuses to a single point, and you lose the 360-degree perspective? So I'll purposely use my eyes to actually look around at the room or my environment and connect with my eyes to the environment. That also grounds me. So any of you who may sense this inner excitement building, where the energy is almost getting to the point where you feel like it's intolerable, use your breathing to slow that energy down and purposely go slower. And you don't want to get in a hurry with this one, because it's when you get in a hurry and you stop paying attention to the unexpected emerging around you that can surprise you and create a shocking event of one kind or another. The symbol I got for this Mars square Uranus is we tend to, when we get in a hurry, cut corners. I have a pet peeve of people in the supermarkets who, cut the corner, especially on the left turn. They'll cut the corner and you're walking around and almost run into you. So the left turn, because it always occurs when you're turning left, you cut the corner, is turning into the emotional side of our being, the empathic and intuitive side. We lose that right brain clarity that says to us, well, someone might be coming around that corner, we shouldn't cut the corner even though we're in a hurry. So watch this as a symbol in your life through these 3-4 months, to see whether you take the time to take that little extra turn, leave that space when you're turning left into your emotions, to leave room for the unexpected coming around that corner and running headlong into you. And you'll find that there are ways and there are areas in your life where you, because you're so focused and hyper, that you cut corners and you're not paying attention to stay in your lane. So this is a symbol I'm going to be using throughout the following 3 months. So if that weren't enough, then Mars will be making a threefold conjunction to the south node of the moon. The south node of the moon's in Aquarius currently, and Mars is currently in Aquarius, and then will turn retrograde in Aquarius at the end of June. Mars makes its first conjunction to the south node on June 7th, but whenever a particular planet's in a field like Aquarius, the aspect will be felt and intuited long before it's exact. The south node of the moon being in Aquarius is particularly when Mars goes retrograde, it's interesting because Aquarius is the sign of the future wave, where the wave is breaking to a greater, more conscious and aware human race. It's like those who are the trendsetters or the Aquarian energy. And yet the south node is connected with our past. And particularly when he turns retrograde in Aquarius, that's also going back into the past. So this is almost like time travelers. I associate Aquarius with time traveling. From the future, coming back to the past, returning to a previous period of our history to correct or advance the human race in a way that a certain future event will be avoided. So many may be feeling like you're just a little out of sync with the present moment. There's something from a higher order of being that's attempting to communicate a brighter, more conscious future that doesn't seem to quite be in sync with what's going on around you in this present moment. Aquarian energy can feel out of sync with the present moment. And that's why they are, by nature, inventors, and those who shock the present moment into the awareness of a more conscious future. So particularly that around the 7th of June, be aware of who shows up as a lost tribal member of your soul group, because this is a time of our finding and connecting with lost members of our soul group, those who we've lost contact with through the shocking experience of incarnation and had our memories or relationship or contacts or connections rattled and lost contact on the soul level with them. So this is a real fascinating time of lost tribal members relocating and finding one another, so that as Mars goes direct, this may take all the way through September. Mars will turn direct at the end of August in late Capricorn, but then by September he re-enters Aquarius and makes his third conjunction to the South Node at the end of September. So by the end of August, we may have found those members with whom we can then begin to re-envision a more conscious and awakened future once that connection has been made. Because the nature of Aquarius is that the higher order of awareness doesn't emerge until you made the proper connection with others of your tribe, so that your collective energetic meld then awakens a higher order of intelligence or awareness. It's almost like the missing tribal members are needed before that greater field of consciousness can emerge. And so there's a deep search and prayer now for us to find each other. And because Aquarius is connected with the internet, our modern technology is playing a large role, a major role in us finding one another now. Any questions or comments about what I've said so far? Okay. As many of you know, this year marks a major transition year because of certain celestials changing sign. Chiron changed sign into Aries, beginning a new 51 to 52 year cycle of new medicine emerging, new medicine ways of affirming our individual right to pursue what makes our hearts sing, emerging. Uranus has shifted into Taurus. He'll go back and forth over the cusp of Taurus this year and into next year. Chiron will also shift back into Pisces and then go fully into Aries next year. And a newly discovered celestial we've named Varuna will be transiting into Leo on June 1st. He touched into Leo briefly last year. And Varuna is discovered in 2000, was the celestial who was most dominant conjunct Jupiter in the 9/11 chart. Jupiter was conjunct Varuna at the top of 9/11's chart. And interestingly enough, Varuna was also conjunct the Sun at the founding of Islam. And when the Sun is conjunct a particular celestial, that celestial describes the energetic manifestation of that individual or event's identity. So Varuna is connected with other gods. He was the Hindu creation god, beyond consciousness and awareness of most people, who always operated in the background. And I associate Varuna with the introduction of new gods. The dark side of the 9/11 event was that it was shocking. It was undeniable. But it also set in motion, particularly for the Western world, an opportunity to become aware of other gods, particularly Islam, which most people in the Western world had no understanding of at all. So these other gods were showing up in a rather dramatic way to open a gateway of understanding that would be more inclusive beyond the ideals the gods we in the Western world have embraced as valuable. We in the Western world have set certain ideological gods in place that exclude other gods. Now, what's fascinating to me is Varuna was the first of these named trans-Neptunian celestials who started being discovered actually in 1992 when Varuna went into Cancer. The Western world ran out of gods. It reached the limits of its own imagination. And had to start inviting the other gods into the matrix. Because whenever a celestial is discovered and is given a name, it becomes consciously available to the mass of humanity. So Varuna, now entering Leo for the next 25 or 26 years, opens the portal or doorway for the lion people, Leo, to begin to show their faces and present themselves as a new archetype of the gods or godlike energy showing itself on planet Earth. So, Varuna entered Leo last year briefly, and many times the dark side of that celestial will manifest first. So we have Donald Trump in his Leo 9 aspect, Leo rising, Mars and Pluto in Leo, showing up as an example of that Leo 9 energy, appearing to take the stage as an example of what it means to be fully embodied in your star-like quality. Because Leo is connected to what? Which celestial is Leo connected to? The Sun. And it's interesting that we call our local star the Sun. All the other stars have names, right? This beautiful star that gives us life is still the Sun. So I feel like this is a symbol of the human race not recognizing its own star-like, unique solar nature, because it's just the Sun. But as we enter into this Varuna and Leo phase, we may increasingly recognize the solar star that we truly are as the center of our being, and become more motivated to shine our lights brightly. Because this whole last 26 years, since 1992, has been about tribal consciousness. The United States of America is a Cancer nation. And just as Varuna went into Cancer in 1992, the United States became the sole superpower of the world. and its tribal identity, its tribal consciousness, began projecting itself out across the world as the ideal to imitate or model itself upon. In a sense, the United States of America, its archetype became God, or attempted to. So now as we shift into Leo, other nations and other archetypes, Varuna, are being recognized as also valuable members of the great circle of humanity, so that we can understand through varying lenses the true nature of the Godhood, or what it means to be connected to the heavenly power of the starlight within ourselves. So this shift, starting June 1st, is quite profound, and I'm looking forward to this gateway beginning to open for all of us. Do we have any Leos here, or Leo rising? Yeah, those of you who have Leo rising especially will begin to really feel that gateway beginning to open to a brighter expression of yourselves, which does ask you to be a little more bold about shining your light, and not hesitating when opportunities present themselves for you to shine your light brightly. Are you feeling the call to show up more fully in your life? Yeah. And that's Leo's opportunity. And Uranus is still at 0 or 1 degree of 0 to 1 degree of Taurus. So Varuna is actually squaring Uranus, and Mars, being in Aquarius, is going back and forth over not just the square to Uranus, but the opposition also to Varuna, which is what's called a T-square. Because of the heightened challenge of the square, this does tend to translate as really feeling somewhat pushed to resolve conflicts that arise around you, so that you then find the power within your being to stay centered in a fast-moving and quickly changing environment. Do we have any astrologers here? People interested in astrology? Okay, so whatever I tell you, you're going to believe, huh? Well, the square aspect is considered a growth-producing aspect. You would think at first that a square, because it's so challenging, wouldn't be growth-producing. It would just be uncomfortable. So the reason that a square offers opportunity for growth is that it draws you out of your comfort zone. We all have a comfort zone that we like to operate within. It's familiar to us. A square is a 90-degree angle that comes out of the blue and challenges your present comfort zone. That's why it's considered challenging. But whenever we're drawn beyond our comfort zone to experience something we would not have naturally or ordinarily involved ourselves in, what happens? We grow, right? We expand our capacity to function in a broader circle of life. So these squares, particularly the T-square, may draw us out beyond our comfort zones to experience what we normally or naturally would not have involved ourselves in, because the challenge presented requires us to do so. So my suggestion throughout, particularly this summer, is that we become more comfortable being uncomfortable. Say, okay. And say, okay, the universe is saying that it wants us to broaden our perspective by involving ourselves with situations or people we may not have ordinarily associated with, because of the nature of the conflict that seems to emerge when we step beyond our comfort zone into alien territory. But the more comfortable we are in broadening our circle, and in a way consciously or purposely allowing ourselves to involve ourselves in situations that we normally would not have involved ourselves in because they're alien to us, we'll find that this offers tremendous opportunities for growth and final resolution of alienation that may have occurred because the other may have appeared as an enemy or different from us. And that's what occurred with Varuna emphasized on 9/11 of 2001, that we were challenged to expand and move beyond our comfort zone, to open the door for a deeper understanding of the entire class of human beings who share this planet with us, that appeared to us as enemy and alien. So in our personal relationships, if those challenges arise, then we have an opportunity to set aside all we really understand or believe is right, and really enter into a state of deep listening, where we are sure that we're really hearing or listening to what another person or situation is offering to us that may seem counter to what we naturally consider right, naturally consider comfortable. So this, I'm really anticipating this Varuna transit into Leo over the next 25 years as being the gateway for what the Hopis have called the Age of Flowers emerging. Anyone familiar with the Hopi prophecies? They call the next stage the Age of Flowers. Flowers are naturally associated with the sun, particularly the sunflower. So the Age of Flowers is the dawning of the brilliance, the starlight in the center of each human being. So the brilliance of our beauty and creative power is recognized, acknowledged, and celebrated as a unique expression of a higher order of being. And that is the Age of Flowers emerging. Varuna as the opportunity for new gods to be introduced, who open the door for us to celebrate that unique starlight that we each carry and express it boldly. So this is the very beginning of that process that will take us a full 25 years to fully realize. Okay. Something to look forward to. So I mentioned the grand trine, Venus forming a grand trine to Jupiter and Neptune it's exact on Friday and Saturday, June 1st and 2nd. But we're already feeling that opportunity of the divine feminine, Venus and Neptune being the female aspects of being, trining one another. It just opens this gateway for this beautiful expression of the divine. And Jupiter in Scorpio. This is a really deeply passionate and empowering feeling experience that opens the door to our bonding with one another on a level at which we've not been able to achieve before, because the water signs are the signs of bonding, of really empathically connecting with one another. So anyone in personal relationship will really feel this opportunity to more deeply bond and connect with our true natures during this period of time. So are those of you in relationship really finding that deepening going on right now? Oh, we're all single here. Okay. The reason I'm mentioning these gateways is because these are opportunities presented by the matrix. What we do with them is up to us. But when you're alert to the opportunity, you can then be more accessible to the nature of that gift that the universe is offering. And another one, so this will be basically true through September or October, with that once a month the moon in Cancer will form that grand trine to the Jupiter-Neptune trine. So we're having this successive opportunity to really deeply connect with one another on a real healing level. Then the moon will be in Cancer on June 14th through the June 14th and 15th, and form a grand trine late on the 14th, basically right around midnight of June 14th. That's a Thursday into Friday. And then a real beautiful grand trine will occur with Mercury, just as Neptune is stationary on June 18th. Mercury trines Jupiter on the 19th, and then trines Neptune on the 20th. So that whole period of time around the summer solstice, just leading into it, be a real beautiful time and opportunity for magical connections to deepen. Because Jupiter-Neptune is about magic. It's about a deeper magic emerging in our lives, that where we become aware, like I said earlier, of higher order intelligences involved in our destiny. And part of the awakening of the human race will be the acknowledgement of that reality, and an open celebration of the bridge that we create between this world and higher worlds that we originate from. A real, what many call a spiritual awakening. So there are different words for different understandings of what being spiritual is. But basically, it's when you become aware of a higher order of reality connecting to you, what many call spirit, the Amakua, that informs you of a deeper and more profound experience of love and connectedness than you had known before. So that's basically what we call spiritual, as opposed to religious. Is that clear? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this opening, which may occur through Jupiter in Scorpio, taking you down into the underworld, the agony of the soul and crying out for a breakthrough, because you're trapped in a place that seemed pretty dark. A test of faith that opens the portal then for your prayer to intensify and focus, your vision quest to deepen. It opens the portal then for your awareness of the higher order of being to break through in a new and more profound way. So this is kind of a roller coaster, and this whole year is it's like expect the unexpected, and the more centered you are in the immovable place of your being that cannot be compromised, the more so you can then move with the flux and the change that occurs this year without being thrown off balance. So I'm sure each of you has a way or practice through which you connect to that immovable place in your being. But that's where your peace will be found. The more you feel that connection is solid to the ground of your being, the more so you can then just enjoy the rather radical nature of the unfolding events that are quite unpredictable occurring throughout this summer and into early fall. So the summer solstice occurs June 21st at 3:07 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, and that's the target for June. So do we have any questions or comments at this point? Go ahead.
I have a question regarding the extremes. So for those of us that are awakened and are at that level, and then we're dealing with those that are deep of confusion. And it's like, for me, it's like, I don't even know the word to explain it, but about being in the higher angelic realms, the intense telepathic abilities, the intense, it's just not normal, it's beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're dealing with people that I think they want to be there, but they're struggling, and it's like, Devin knows, but they dealt with it today, but they're crying for someone to come to look for and receive this awakening. Like last year, the people that came to me, where they were looking for fairies or certain spirit beings in the trees, I have people crying to want to be awakened.
Mm-hmm.
They think it's a magic checkoff book.
Right.
And so one part to me is just so easy, and then the other part I have to realize, whoa, they're with compassion, and I can help them go halfway to the bridge, but the other half I have to let them go and swim on their own,
Mm-hmm.
and that. So I just wanted to share that. I can share some more things about just like.
Well, we're here to plant seeds. You plant that seed and then allow the spirit to move through that, within that person's life, to awaken that seed. We can't take them there, like you said, but we can offer opportunities. How or whether that opportunity is taken is none of our business. So once I realized that it's not my job to save or rescue or awaken anyone, I just offer opportunities and plant seeds. My life got a lot simpler. Because they have their own team, they have their own guides. And their team knows exactly what they've contracted for in this incarnation as an opportunity to advance their soul. I'm not awakened enough to know that. Sometimes a person needs to really experience what not to do fully to eliminate that fantasy from their life. That's what I call fantasy busting. And if they're in that process and they're not done with that experience, they'll fight me really hard to stay in that experience, because some part of their being knows that they need to have the full experience of that fantasy in order to release it from their soul history. Because if it's only 98% complete and that 2% still remains, they may have to come back again to complete that 2% fantasy. It still remains about that way of being, or that relationship. So when someone begins to resist me or fight me, it says, back off, brother. That person's really committed to having that experience. I just need to create a healthy boundary and walk away. Turn it over to their team, who's more conscious and aware of what's most appropriate for them at that stage of their growth.
See, what I suffer with, Eric, is like this. Actually, this bracelet was just given to me a couple of days ago from a lady who just came back from Africa, from Zimbabwe, where the lion people are. And the black represents certain colored people, the white represents other colored people. The black can represent a certain religious group of people, the white can represent another religious group of people, like you talked about the ISIS and Trump stuff. And you can go on forever, someone with black hair, someone with brown hair, But at the end, once we peel all that off, we have blood that drips out of us. And that's a part that I still feel this intense love for all humans, even though I can't But I know I have to work on it, is to say, okay, the boundaries are here, they cross the line, but I can't, because that blood is here. The portal in heaven is opening up, and the portal on the earth is opening up, and the two are merging. It's like a complete birth that's happening right now. Like, I mean, for those of you who have given birth to babies, it is coming out of that portal right now, and the two of them are coming together like a set of twins, actually, if you think about it. It's like, really, I know what you're speaking is extremely serious what's happening right now. Extremely serious.
Well, you know, I know Sophia personally, so I know what awakened her. It was rather dramatic.
Yes. Yeah, I had a near-death
And
experience.
yeah, so we have no idea what an individual is contracted for as a means to awaken. I mean, no one could have predicted that means through which you finally did awaken rather dramatically. But that's the sole contract you would have made before you were born. So I merely offer opportunities and just let go, because I can't know ultimately what that person needs to fully awaken.
And you can't do it for them.
Yeah, you can't. No, and
it's just part of the love that flows out of me. It's just like blood that flows out of me, a flower that flows out of me. It'd be beautiful that everybody can see that love. It's so intense, but I also understand we have to all learn how to swim on our own, you know, to experience it. Something I have to deal with.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about awakening is when you awaken to the next level, you realize you thought you were awake, but you weren't. It's like, wow, I was sound asleep. I thought I was wide awake, and I really saw clearly. So I just leave that the whole question alone.
It's consciousness.
And deepen my discipline to stay with what makes my heart sing. And as long as it makes my heart sing, I'm on the right path. And I'm moving toward and deeper into the greater mystery of the power of love moving in this world. Because there is love moving in this world, whether we understand it or not, whether we see it or not. Even the most difficult of emotional situations an individual might find themselves trapped in, there's a higher order purpose unfolding there that I may not be aware of. So I'm very careful not to interfere with a person's initiation. They're going through an initiation that's important to them. And if they're not done with it, they're going to fight me. They'll hold on to it really tight, because they know that it's an important initiatic experience for them to complete before they can take the next step in their life. So I've learned to hold lightly to what I perceive as suffering in other people's lives and my role in relieving their suffering. Because particularly with your chart, I know your chart, you're very emotionally empathic. And it's difficult for you to watch other people suffer, because you feel, you're so empathic yourself, you feel their suffering at a very deep level. And the danger with healers and those who are enlighteners is we attempt to relieve our own suffering through relieving the suffering of others, because we can't stop hurting them until they stop hurting. And that's when we get trapped in the savior mentality, when we're really dealing with their own suffering.
What helps me is prayer. Just to go through prayer and to pray and then let it.
Yeah.
That's what helps, but still it's deep inside.
Yeah, and healthy psychic boundaries where you're not, drawn into and experiencing the drama of other people around you, because otherwise you get drawn into it. And before you know it, you're trapped in their matrix, and you can't get out of it until you heal them. It's like, I know that one real well. It's like, I don't do that anymore. I just create a healthy boundary and walk away. It's none of my business.
Thank you.
So, particularly with these the grand trines and water signs, our empathic abilities and our capacity to really feel what another person is going through are really intensified. So the practice of really being conscious about your boundaries and being able to create a healthy psychic boundary and not be drawn into the drama of others is real important right now. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
My question is on retrograde planets. What effect do retrograde planets have on us, and are they stronger or weaker?
The retrograde just if you just meditate on what happens when a planet turns retrograde, it goes back and forth over a certain area of the sky 3 times. So it's emphasizing, it's slowing down and saying, okay, we want you to pay attention to this area of your being, because each area of the sky is represented in a certain area of your chart. So whatever house or planet's activated, that planet is slowing down, going retrograde, saying, pay attention to this part of your life, because we want you to gain a deeper understanding of that aspect of your being. So it just won't go away. And when, particularly around the station point, when the planet celestial just slows down to a dead stop, it's like Mars is standing still, so you can get a really good look at him, you know. And so, whenever Mars is retrograde, it's the most challenging of the retrogrades, because Mars is about forward momentum, and he really likes to move you forward. And yet, when it's retrograde, it's saying you got to slow down and reconnect with your inner fire. Mars is connected with your fire before your outer fire can express itself in a conscious and healthy way.
So right now Saturn and Jupiter are also retrograde.
Yeah, and those outer planets go retrograde for months at a time. So they're not really that, it's really not that impactful on our personal lives, unless you have Jupiter going back and forth over a particular personal planet in your chart. Then it becomes more accentuated. You become a personal incarnation of that aspect of being for the rest of us. You know? So you'd have to watch it to see when an outer planet is going back and forth over some personal planet in your chart. Then it becomes important. You know? But generally speaking, it's just a general feeling. You know? Is that clear? Okay. Anyone? Go ahead.
Would it make any difference where your moon is placed? Like if you have your moon in a particular planet, would it make any difference?
In what respect?
Well, let's say your moon is in Cancer, your moon is in Aries, or your moon, with all this stuff coming in, would it make any real difference?
Well, generally speaking, the moon is your most personal celestial. It's not really a planet. It's where you feel most at home. So whenever your moon is being activated by another celestial, it really comes home to you. You experience it in the most personal way, where your zone of safety and protection and feeling embraced and welcomed here on planet Earth is really found. It's the mother principle. So depending on where your moon is in your chart and how it's being transited by other celestials or aspected, you'll feel more or less comfortable with the process of unfolding in your life. Then you have also the progressed moon, which can be found anywhere in the chart, depending on how old you are. Is that, I'm not sure exactly what you were asking there, but
It helps.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is your moon being aspected right now because of some cancer? Okay.
I don't know.
Well, if anyone has the moon in Cancer in their natal chart, this would be a really powerful psychic time for the emotional depths of motherhood to really deepen and broaden as not just mother to yourself or your close kin, but to the world at large. And the United States of America, having the sun in Cancer, has been given that opportunity to gentle its tone and really be concerned about being the mother protector of the destiny of the human race. So we'll see how well she does with that this year. Anyone else? Go ahead.
Can you say anything about the leadership of this country? Where is it going? I mean, hopefully there's going to be good coming out of all this chaos right now.
Yeah. When Pluto went into Capricorn in 2008, I was wondering who would emerge as a petty tyrant of the business world, taking or seizing power in this country. So I had no idea it would be Donald Trump, you know, fulfilling that Pluto and Capricorn archetypal role. And this is building toward the Capricorn climax in 2020, when Jupiter then also joins Saturn and Pluto in Capricorn. It's the culmination of what not to do, and all the patriarchal powers, the archetypal powers of the patriarchy that had set this entire civilization, or seeded this entire civilization and brought it into being over the last few thousand years, coming to a head, coming into a full view, its consequence. So Donald Trump to me is like a symbol of that patriarchal archetype really being emphasized to the point where we cannot ignore its consequence any longer. And how long that takes for the human race to get it, particularly America, can't be known. But the demonstration is intensifying. So. But with Pluto and Capricorn in particular, and Saturn and Capricorn in our own personal charts, you know, this is we're all realizing that the king's not wearing any clothes, and that we need to take our own power. We need to find the integrity in our own being to be commander-in-chief of our own reality, and not look to our leaders to open these portals or opportunities for us that seem to solve the world's problems, because they are basically powerless to do so without an empowered human race. The solution here can't be, you know, one empowered individual creating the solution for the rest of us, which is what unconsciously we're hoping a leader to do for us. The new age will dawn as each individual human being becomes personally empowered, connected to their alma kua, their oversoul. The new world, or the new age, dawns within them. And then as others awaken in their true nature, that new world will naturally emerge as each individual has awakened to their true power. So the heyoka of all of this is we have to get really disappointed with every leader or spiritual guide or spiritual guru that we've imagined would open the door or lead us to the promised land. The point where he finally says, you know, the hell with it, I'm going to take my own power now. And take command of my own world and create the destiny that I'm hoping others may have created for me, and do it myself. This is not an individual. You're not isolating yourself from others around you. You're just deepening into your own power, so that you realize you have you're the dreamer, not the dream, and that you can dream this world that you're hoping others will open for you into being yourself, and be a catalyst through which others then can join you. Okay, so this disappointment in our leaders is a natural part of the awakening. Go ahead.
I was wondering, do you know when Pluto is going to move out of Capricorn and into Aquarius?
2022.
2022.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah. And it was during Pluto's last transit through Capricorn that the United States of America was born. And then the U.S. Constitution was actually written and conceived with Pluto in Aquarius. Which, so we're on the verge. And I mentioned in my last talk that also one of these newly discovered celestials, Orcus, connected with our soul's purpose and destiny, is also making a return to the U.S. Orcus. That Orcus and Pluto have nearly identical orbital cycles. So the United States of America is experiencing simultaneously, within a few years of each other, a Pluto return and an Orcus return through the early 20s. So this is, a mind-blowing turn in America's destiny as an archetype, as an energetic ideal, presented as an opportunity for the human race to evolve.
So I'm wondering, what would it be in someone's chart? The whole idea of planting seeds of consciousness to understand when there's something that's working with an agenda. So being able to remove that agenda and just care about people's consciousness. But what is it in the chart that might actually have the agenda? Is there I mean, is there a planet that would influence that?
Every celestial is a field of consciousness.
Yeah, so if you care about being in service to others,
Mm-hmm.
but then what you're working through is your own agenda of what that looks like.
Yeah.
Like, what would that be?
There's no celestial that would represent that by itself,
Okay.
because every field of consciousness has a more and less conscious level of expression. So it depends on your own soul's evolution. These celestials only offer opportunities. It's the evolution of our soul that determines at what stage we engage with that opportunity. That's why no one chart has a fixed interpretation. The chart only represents the opportunity. The level at which you engage with that opportunity is dependent on the development or consciousness of your own soul engaging with it. So these celestials have a higher order, more conscious and fully developed level of expression than a less developed level of expression. So the answer to your question is your own personal connection with your soul and how aware you are of what your thoughts are and what's the impinging thoughts or energies might be. And being clear about what makes your heart sing. Keeping it simple. Yeah. Anyone else? Go ahead.
Hi. What's that V celestial you said that was going to Leo?
The what?
It started with a V. The celestial going
Varuna?
Yeah, Varuna. Do you remember when last year it dipped into Leo?
It was throughout the summer of last year.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Also, just a fun synchronicity comment. We're talking a lot about flowering and seeding and blossoming and awareness.
Mm-hmm.
In the Mayan synchronometer this year is the year of the yellow seed, and today
The yellow seed.
Mm-hmm, which is the seed of awareness.
Okay.
Flowering. And today is a self-existing yellow star day, and it's guided by flowering.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
So,
it's guided by the yellow seed.
okay.
The flowering of awareness.
Beautiful. Thank you for that.
And it's the Women's Herbal Symposium too happening right now.
Ah, okay. Sweet.
That's flowers.
Oh, nice. That's what was going on the street out here?
In the Bay Area.
Okay. Yeah. So Lion medicine may begin to make itself really known as an avenue through which the new gods are introduced. So this is I'm really looking forward to this Leo phase, or in Leo phase, emerging as an opportunity for all of us in the human race at large. So when I mention these dates, I don't try to even imagine what might happen. I'm just aware of the opportunity to allow, as the Aborigines call the speaking world, to reflect back to me the nature of the change and the people and events that occur or begin to unfold from that point onward as a direct manifestation of that energetic shift. So I'm just extra alert for the omens or gestures of the spirit that appear on or around that date. Okay? Go ahead.
Could you give a little more information on the Leo thing? What's coming up? Because I was not clear on some of that.
Well, for you specifically, I'm getting this message that you need to go to the zoo and listen to a lion roar.
Well, I know some of the traits of Leo, but I don't want to go on about what I think about it. I just wanted to hear what you had to say with the Leo energy coming in. I mean, I know it's intense and it's willful, and some of it's pretty self-absorbed, and I'm sure there's a lot of beautiful Leos out there that don't do that. But I just was curious, because Leo's a very powerful, forceful, I will energy. It's intense. So,
Yeah, it's connected with the starlight within you, the sun. It's ruled by the sun. So whatever you could say about the brilliance and power of the sun in your own being, that inner sun emerging, is Leo, where you realize your own individual creative power. That's why Leo has the reputation for being big, bold, and bright. The star. Literally the star. But in the early stages of Leo, because they're insecure about the beauty and brilliance of that light, they'll need to overemphasize it and blow everyone else off the stage in order to affirm the fact that they're the brightest star in the room. But they're actually really deeply insecure. Many Leos, you talk to, you think they're just drop-dead gorgeous and they're well-known, and yet deep down inside they're insecure. So how can you be insecure, you know? Because Leo's learning to become secure in the beauty and brilliance of their own starlight. The applause they seek is to affirm that. So the more applause they get, well, I must really be bright because look, all these people are clapping. Because they're building their self-confidence in the creative power of their own being. But the more advanced Leo then realizes that as a given, that they're a brilliant star, and they open the doorway for others to share the stage with them, or to actually encourage others to shine brightly along with them. So you can see that spectrum in Leo, with Leo emphasis in a person's chart, where they're just, they just walk in with big hair and take the room over, or they're just so natural in their beauty and power that they just come in and light everybody else's sun. So they share the stage with them. Is that a little clearer?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Do we have any Leos here? Leo, are you Leo over here? Leo rising.
Me as well.
So you should have been sitting in the front row. Anyone else?
What's the distinction between Leo rising and the Leo sun?
Well, the rising sign is the doorway you walk through when you walk out into this world. It's your individual expression, and many times it's what you're learning to do. It's following the 12th house. 12th house is previous incarnational history. But the Leo rising is saying, well, I'm learning how to be bold, bright, and beautiful, and take the stage. It's not something that comes naturally to me, but it's the path through which my soul will grow the most, the ascendant.
Yeah, I'm learning about the will, the power of the will, which feels like a strong solar plexus energy.
Yeah.
It's just like, and at first it felt like controlling things, but now it realize it's more like a willing things to happen. And so you're willing things after, having that heart connection and feeling that heart, and then in that willing along with spirit, willing things to happen as a human.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of resonates with the whole Leo too.
Yeah, exactly. The Leo is connected with the solar logos, which in some esoteric circles is connected with the will of God, the will of the higher power, or the intent of the higher power. So you just moved in a very energetic way to show up as an aspect of that greater logos expressing itself in human form. Anyone else? Go
I
ahead.
have a question. Can you tell me more about the Virgo and the star of Virgo?
We don't want to get into his astrology teaching here, but Virgo naturally follows Leo. Are you familiar with the sequence of the signs?
Yeah, I am familiar.
As I said earlier in the talk, it's an evolutionary cycle. So in general, if any of you want to know more about a particular sign, look at the sign before and ask yourself how Virgo is a natural consequence of Leo, and how Virgo prepares you for Libra. And you'll get a real feeling of that evolutionary process. Because Virgo doesn't seem to harmonize with Leo's, right? But it's that application of that solar fire that's big and bright in service to another that perfects or hones that talent to perfection, Virgo. And then once you self-realize, fully self-realize through the first six signs, then you're prepared in Libra to begin dancing with the mirror self, another, the house of marriage, to expand your awareness beyond your personal sphere, your relationship to others. But if you do that with the signs, you'll really start feeling how they move as an evolutionary process.
Remember there was a book that I read about that showed the evolutionary process.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know?
Well, Dane Rujar introduced the idea in the 30s about the evolutionary process of the chart.
That would be what to look up.
Yeah, and I haven't read any astrology books in who knows how long, so I wouldn't. But you can really just take that to heart, and in your own meditation, you'll become more. You'll be given the information correctly. Okay, go ahead.
I'm just curious. Do you, in your studies and experiences, are you seeing, like with the 2020 thing that you were talking about, and it's kind of changing God in a way? Are you seeing a correlation between astrology and the Hopi prophecy, like you mentioned, and then other prophecies? I'm seeing correlations, but I just don't have an understanding to really put it together. Have you found that things are lining up, that the astrology of what you're saying is being spoken of in different prophecies from different places, or not?
Well, particularly the aspect of flowering is really reflected by the matrix. Really forming these incredible trines and sextiles between the outer celestials in the 2020s, particularly the mid to late 20s. And I'll close with this. Jupiter conjunct Saturn, 12/21/2020, at 0 degrees of Aquarius, begins a 200-year cycle of the Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions in the air signs. Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions are a 20-year cycle that tend to set the tone of the social tone on the human level of our evolution for that 20-year period. We've been having Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions in the Earth signs for the last 200 years, except for 1980. And every time that changes, we have human society has the opportunity to evolve in a whole different element. And the air element is the element of awareness. So the awakening of the human race, Aquarius, 0 degrees, really begins as an opportunity from that point onward into 2021. And then we have the other celestials forming these incredible sextiles and trines. And also the long sextile between Uranus and Neptune forming in the 20s. So this is just, I really feel like the real dawning, the age of flowers, the flowering is really going to be occurring beginning in 2021, and especially just accelerating through the 20s into the late 20s. But between now and then, we need to just allow that which has been set in motion to fully mature and come into full view. So really comprehend the nature of that choice. We won't have any doubts about the nature of that choice on a human civilizational level beyond that point. So when we're done with it, we are done with it. And we won't repeat that same choice as the next wave unfolds into the future. So a little patience here. Might get a little intense over the next couple of years, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. It's not a train coming at us. So. Okay.